You know, life has a funny way of teaching us lessons. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. When you step back, when you choose no contact, something shifts. Suddenly, your absence becomes your power. It's human nature. We don't always value what's right in front of us until it's no longer available. When you walk away with dignity, when you stop chasing, when you protect your peace, you create space, and in that space, people notice. They notice the confidence, the self-respect, the quiet strength. That's when they return, not because of magic, not because of games, but because self-worth is magnetic. It's irresistible, but here's the truth. When they come back, the real question isn't why they returned. The real question is, do they deserve the version of you that grew in their absence? Because silence isn't just distance, it's transformation. It's proof that you can stand alone, that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone's presence. And when you know that, when you live that truth, you stop waiting for returns. You start moving forward. So yes, people may return after no contact, but the real victory is knowing you don't need them to. Silence creates value because in silence, people are forced to confront what they took for granted. When you stop explaining yourself, stop chasing, stop filling the gaps with words, others begin to notice the weight of your absence. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence in its purest, most powerful form. It is the moment when you reclaim your energy and choose to protect your peace rather than prove your worth to anyone. In relationships, in friendships, in life, silence shifts the dynamic. It unsettles those who thought they had unlimited access to you, those who grew comfortable with your constant availability. Suddenly, the noise of your presence disappears, and that absence echoes louder than anything you could ever say. Silence creates value because people naturally become curious about what they cannot easily have. The human mind is wired to seek answers, to fill voids, to wonder why. When your voice is no longer there to comfort, explain, or justify, it sparks reflection. They begin to replay memories, revisit conversations, rethink their actions, and that reflection builds value. It is not manipulation. It is simply the truth that energy held becomes more precious. The rare becomes desirable, and the unavailable becomes sought after. Silence is the art of scarcity, and scarcity breeds value. When you choose silence, you communicate boundaries without needing confrontation. You say, "I know my worth," without ever uttering a word. That choice demonstrates strength. It shows that you are not dependent on anyone's response for your happiness. It reminds others that access to you is not guaranteed, and respect must be earned. That realization shakes people because they suddenly see you in a light they missed when you were always available. Silence teaches them that you are not waiting on their approval, their apology, or their attention. You have already moved into a place where your energy matters more than their explanation. Silence creates value because it leaves room for imagination. People begin to wonder, what are you doing? Who are you with? How are you moving forward without them? That mystery is powerful. It unsettles the complacency of others and forces them to recognize the strength you've always had. The silence makes them realize that their presence is not the center of your world. It puts you back in control of your own narrative. Instead of you chasing closure, they are the ones seeking it. Instead of you trying to prove your worth, they are the ones questioning why they ever doubted it. True power lies not in loudness, but in restraint. By holding back words, by holding back reactions, you shift the weight of attention. Silence teaches patience, discipline, and confidence. It is not about ignoring someone out of anger, but about protecting your own space until respect is redefined. Silence allows emotions to cool and clarity to grow. While they are busy trying to decode your quiet, you are busy evolving, building, healing, and creating a stronger version of yourself. The growth you experience in silence is unmatched, and that growth is what magnifies your value. The world often confuses availability with worth, but silence proves otherwise. It proves that constant noise does not guarantee importance. Sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that is missing, the one that makes people stop and reflect. Silence is not weakness, It is confidence in disguise. It is knowing that you don't need to prove your point to make it. It is letting your absence be the reminder of your strength, your independence, and your self-respect. Silence creates value because it rewrites dynamics. It reminds people that you are not here to be taken for granted. It shifts their perception, it makes them look inward, and it forces them to realize the depth of your worth. Through silence, you stop giving away your energy to places where it is not appreciated. Instead, you turn inward, building yourself, nurturing your dreams, and holding your power close. In that stillness, others learn the truth they ignored for too long, that your presence was never ordinary, it was always extraordinary, and the silence only makes that clearer. Absence highlights self-worth because when you step away, people are left with the undeniable truth of what you brought into their lives. Presence is often overlooked, taken for granted, or assumed to be permanent, but absence has a way of magnifying importance. When you are constantly available, constantly present, constantly giving, it is easy for others to assume that your energy, your kindness, your attention, and your love are endless resources. Yet the moment you pull back, the moment you create distance, the moment your absence is felt, people begin to see the depth of what they had but never truly appreciated. Absence creates a mirror, and in that mirror others see their own shortcomings, their own neglect, and their own failure to value you when they had the chance. Your silence, your distance, and your choice to walk away leave behind an emptiness that words cannot fill. They feel the void not because you were loud or demanding, but because your energy carried weight, and without it, life feels different. That difference highlights your worth more than any declaration ever could. Absence is a quiet reminder that what is ignored will eventually be missed, and what is taken for granted will eventually be gone. In absence, people are forced to confront the reality of how much you mattered. They replay conversations, they remember moments, they revisit the times you stood by them, and they finally realize how effortlessly you gave without expecting much in return. What once felt ordinary suddenly feels extraordinary when it is no longer accessible. That shift creates awareness, and that awareness is the birthplace of value. Absence highlights self-worth not because you demanded recognition, but because your absence makes it impossible to deny. When you distance yourself, you shift the energy of the connection. The person who once assumed you would always be there begins to question, begins to doubt, begins to feel the loss. Absence creates curiosity, it creates longing, and it creates respect. It teaches others that you are not an endless supply of attention, that your presence cannot be bought with half-hearted effort. Your self-worth is amplified because absence draws clear lines. It shows that you will not settle for less than respect, appreciation, and genuine effort. That clarity is what makes people see your value in ways they never did before. Absence also gives you the chance to see your own worth more clearly. In the quiet, you begin to understand how much you were giving, how much of yourself you invested, and how much you deserve in return. Absence is not just about teaching others. It is about reminding yourself of your own strength. By stepping away, you reclaim your time, your peace, and your energy. You stop pouring into empty cups, and you start filling your own. That self-discovery radiates outward, and others begin to notice the change. They see a stronger, more confident version of you, and that contrast highlights your value even more. Absence highlights self-worth because it forces reflection. People are often blind to value until it is out of reach. The laughter, the support, the warmth you brought into their lives was never ordinary, but in the routine of daily life, they may have overlooked it. When it disappears, the silence echoes, and that echo becomes a teacher. It whispers reminders of your presence, your uniqueness, and your irreplaceable role. That realization creates a shift, a deeper appreciation, and sometimes even regret. The regret is not always voiced, but it exists in the way they remember you, in the way they miss you, in the way they wish they had treated you better when they had the chance. Absence makes self Worth undeniable because it proves that you are not defined by anyone's recognition. You did not need validation to know your value. You simply chose to step back, and in doing so, you let reality do the work. You let the silence speak, and silence has a way of speaking louder than any confrontation. Absence is powerful because it cannot be argued with, it cannot be dismissed, it cannot be ignored. It is a constant reminder of what once was and what is no longer there. Through absence, people learn that your energy was not replaceable. They may try to fill the void with distractions, with other people, with noise, but the truth remains. What you gave, who you were, and how you showed up cannot be duplicated. Absence highlights that your worth was never conditional, never small, and never ordinary. It was always significant, always impactful, always meaningful. Absence shines a spotlight on that reality, and in that light, your self-worth becomes undeniable. Confidence is magnetic because it radiates an energy that draws people in without effort, without chasing, without pleading for attention. It is not about arrogance or superiority, but about a quiet assurance that speaks louder than words. Confidence is the subtle glow that lights up a room, the calm presence that makes others feel secure, and the steady voice that doesn't need to shout to be heard. People are naturally attracted to those who believe in themselves, because that belief becomes a mirror, reflecting back the possibilities that others long to see in their own lives. When you carry confidence, you do not need to explain your worth to anyone. It shows in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you hold yourself even in silence. Confidence tells the world that you know who you are, and that you will not shrink to fit into spaces that are too small for your greatness. That kind of energy cannot be faked, because it is built through resilience, through challenges, through learning that your value is not defined by anyone else's recognition. People notice that strength, and they gravitate toward it, because it gives them a sense of stability and inspiration. Confidence is magnetic because it creates curiosity. Others want to know what makes you so grounded, so sure, so unshakable. They want to understand why you are not easily swayed by opinions, why you do not chase after validation, why you walk away from situations that don't honor you with such calm dignity. That curiosity pulls them closer, not because you are seeking their attention, but because your energy leaves them wanting more. Confidence is the ultimate form of attraction, not just in love but in life, because it signals that you are complete within yourself. Confidence has the power to shift dynamics. In conversations, the one who carries confidence does not dominate with volume, but with presence. In relationships, the one who carries confidence does not beg for love, but inspires respect. In opportunities, the one who carries confidence does not wait for permission, but creates paths where none existed. People admire that quality because it challenges them to rise, to believe, to trust themselves more deeply. They are drawn not only to your strength, but to the possibility that they too can embody such certainty. When you live with confidence, rejection no longer defines you. Failure no longer breaks you. Silence no longer diminishes you. Instead, each setback becomes a stepping stone, each disappointment becomes a lesson, each closed door becomes redirection. That resilience builds an aura that others cannot ignore. They see how you rise after falling, how you stand tall in storms, how you carry scars not as weaknesses but as badges of survival. That resilience makes you magnetic because it shows that you are real yet unbroken. Confidence is magnetic because it inspires trust. People are drawn to those who exude certainty because certainty brings comfort. Whether in leadership, friendship, or love, a confident presence calms the chaos. It signals reliability, it signals strength, it signals the ability to handle challenges without crumbling. That trust makes people return, makes them want to stay close, makes them seek your presence when life feels overwhelming. Confidence becomes a safe place, not because it promises perfection, but because it promises authenticity and strength. There is a beauty in the kind of confidence that does not boast, that does not belittle, that does not compare. It is the beauty of knowing your value without needing to compete. That kind of confidence is graceful, and grace is unforgettable. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel when your confidence inspired them to believe more in themselves. That impact lingers, and that is why confidence is magnetic. It leaves a mark long after the moment has passed. Confidence also creates freedom. When you are confident, you stop waiting for others to validate your choices, your dreams, your path. You begin to move with a rhythm that is yours alone, and that independence is captivating. People are drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves, who embrace their flaws, who own their uniqueness. That authenticity is irresistible because it is rare. In a world where many are chasing approval, the one who stands grounded in self-belief becomes a light, and light always attracts. Confidence is magnetic because it sets boundaries without hostility. It says no without guilt, it says yes without fear, and it protects peace without apology. Those boundaries are not walls, they are gates that allow only what serves your growth to enter. People respect those who respect themselves, even if they don't admit it. They may test your boundaries, but once they realize they cannot cross them, they admire the strength it takes to hold them. That admiration turns into attraction, because strength is always more appealing than neediness. When you embody confidence, you become unforgettable, not because you demand attention, but because your presence lingers in people's minds long after you are gone. They remember the calm in your voice, the clarity in your choices, the steadiness in your steps. They remember how you didn't flinch under pressure, how you didn't crumble under judgment, how you didn't compromise your values just to be accepted. That memory keeps pulling them back because true confidence cannot be replicated, and once experienced, it is never forgotten. Return doesn't equal deserving because coming back is not the same as valuing, and showing up again does not automatically mean growth or change. People often confuse the act of returning with the act of truly appreciating, but those are two entirely different things. Someone can return because they feel lonely, because they miss the comfort you once gave, because they crave familiarity, or because they realize the silence you created leaves a void they cannot fill elsewhere. Yet none of those reasons guarantee that they deserve another chance, another space in your life, or another opportunity to experience the version of you that evolved in their absence. When someone returns, it is tempting to believe it is a sign of love, a sign of realization, a sign of change. But the truth is, returning is easy. It requires no effort beyond reaching out, no accountability beyond showing up, no transformation beyond the decision to come back. Deserving, however, is different. Deserving requires proof through consistent action, through respect, through growth, through the willingness to treat you better than they did before. Deserving means they understand the weight of your value and are ready to honor it, not just revisit it when it feels convenient for them. Return doesn't equal deserving because people often return to what feels safe, not to what they are ready to protect. Comfort is powerful, familiarity can be addictive. When they step into the silence and feel its emptiness, they are reminded of the warmth they once had, the presence they once leaned on, the support they once expected. That pull brings them back, but it doesn't mean they have changed enough to honor it. Returning can be selfish, a way to ease their discomfort, a way to regain access, a way to feed their ego by proving they can still be welcomed. Deserving, on the other hand, is selfless. It is about giving back, about contributing, about valuing the space they are allowed to re-enter. It is important to see the difference between a return and genuine effort. A return can come with words, apologies, promises, and charm, but deserving is proven through consistent behavior over time. Anyone can say they miss you, but not everyone can show that they are willing to respect the boundaries that protect your peace. Anyone can say they have changed, but not everyone will demonstrate it when faced with real choices. A return without growth is simply a cycle, and cycles only repeat the same pain. Deserving requires breaking that cycle, showing maturity, and committing to a higher standard. Return doesn't equal deserving because you're self. Worth is not a revolving door. You are not a place someone should leave and enter whenever it suits them. Your energy is not a resource to be borrowed and returned at will. The fact that someone comes back does not erase the reasons you created distance in the first place. It does not erase the times they failed to show up, the moments they dismissed your value, or the times they made you feel unseen. A return can be an opportunity for closure, for clarity, for understanding, but it should never be mistaken for proof of worthiness. Worthiness is shown in how they treat you now, not in the fact that they decided to come back. Return doesn't equal deserving because sometimes people return out of habit, not out of love. They remember how you made them feel, how easy it was to rely on you, how comforting your presence was, and they seek that feeling again. But seeking comfort is not the same as seeking growth. Deserving means they are willing to build something new, something stronger, something healthier. It means they don't just want the version of you they once had. They are willing to rise to meet the version of you that has evolved, that has healed, that has grown beyond what they left. When someone returns, it is not your responsibility to open the door simply because they knocked. It is your responsibility to ask yourself whether their presence aligns with your peace, your goals, your growth. Deserving is not about sentiment, it is about alignment. Do they respect the boundaries you've created? Do they support the person you are becoming? Do they bring value to your journey instead of draining it? These are the questions that matter because anyone can return, but not everyone deserves access to the life you are building. Return doesn't equal deserving because time changes everything. The person you were when they left is not the person you are when they return. You have grown, you have healed, you have learned, and you have built strength in the silence. You are no longer the same, and the space they left is no longer waiting for them in the way they imagine. To deserve you now, they must meet the version of you that exists today, not the memory of who you were before. They must prove that they are capable of walking alongside the stronger, wiser, more confident version of you. Simply returning does not grant them that right. It is easy to romanticize a return, to believe it is destiny, to believe it is fate, to believe it is proof of love. But the truth is, many people return not because of love, but because of comfort, ego, loneliness, or fear of loss. Deserving means they return with respect, with accountability, with a genuine desire to honor what they once ignored. It means they have faced their own shortcomings, confronted their own flaws, and chosen to grow. It means they are ready not just to return, but to remain, to nurture, to respect, and to build. The true victory is independence because it is the moment you realize that your happiness, your peace, and your sense of worth are not tied to anyone else's presence, approval, or validation. Independence is the freedom to stand on your own 2 feet, to breathe without relying on someone else to give you air, to love yourself deeply enough that you are whole with or without company. It is not loneliness, it is strength. It is not isolation, it is liberation. Independence is the space where you no longer wait for someone to rescue you because you already learned to rescue yourself. Independence is power because it removes fear. Fear of abandonment fades when you understand that you will survive even if people leave. Fear of rejection disappears when you know that someone's inability to value you does not erase your value. Fear of silence turns into comfort when you recognize that your own company is enough. That freedom makes you unshakable because nothing external controls the stability of your heart. Independence builds an inner strength that no storm can destroy, no absence can weaken, no loss can diminish. The true victory is independence because it transforms the way you love. When you are independent, you do not love out of need, you love out of choice. You do not hold on to relationships out of fear of being alone. You hold on to them because they add to your life, not because they complete it. You stop accepting crumbs of attention, half-hearted efforts, and inconsistent affection because your self-respect will not allow it. Independence teaches you to draw boundaries, to demand respect, and to protect your peace without apology. It shows others that your worth is not negotiable, and that if they want to be part of your life, they must rise to meet the standard you have set for yourself. Independence also shifts how others see you. When you carry yourself with self-reliance, people feel it. They sense the confidence, the strength, the quiet dignity that comes with knowing you are enough. Independence is magnetic because it shows that you are not desperate for validation. It makes others want to be close, not because you beg for attention, but because your energy radiates self-assurance. Independence is attractive not just in love, but in life, because people are drawn to those who walk their own path without fear of standing alone. The true victory is independence because it creates choice. When you no longer depend on someone else for happiness, you are free to choose relationships, careers, and paths that align with your values rather than your fears. You are no longer trapped in situations that drain you simply because you are afraid to lose them. Independence gives you the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you and the clarity to recognize what truly does. It makes you bolder, braver, and more willing to take risks because your foundation is no longer dependent on the actions of others. Independence also brings peace. There is a calmness in knowing that your well-being does not hinge on someone else's mood, decisions, or presence. You can wake up in peace, move through your day in peace, and rest in peace because your life is not tied to external approval. That peace allows you to think clearly, to make stronger decisions, to invest in yourself, and to grow without distraction. It allows you to focus on your goals, your dreams, your passions, without constantly wondering whether someone else will give you permission to pursue them. The true victory is independence because it creates resilience. Life will always bring challenges, heartbreaks, and losses, but independence teaches you that you can handle them. You can rebuild when things fall apart. You can heal when people hurt you. You can stand when circumstances try to knock you down. Independence is not about never needing anyone, but about never collapsing when people disappoint you. It is about knowing you are capable of carrying yourself forward even when support is absent. That resilience is priceless because it makes you unstoppable. Independence also changes how you see yourself. It allows you to recognize your own strength, your own capabilities, your own brilliance. It reminds you that you are not small, that you are not powerless, that you are not defined by anyone else's presence in your life. You begin to see yourself as whole, as complete, as worthy of everything you desire. That shift is powerful because when you see yourself that way, the world has no choice but to see you that way too. The true victory is independence because it allows you to give without losing yourself. You can pour love into others without emptying your own cup. You can support others without sacrificing your own dreams. You can stand beside people without depending on them to carry you. Independence creates balance where relationships are built on choice, not necessity. It allows you to be generous without being drained, to be loving without being desperate, to be available without being consumed. Independence is freedom in its purest form. It is the freedom to choose your own path, to create your own story, to define your own worth. It is the freedom to walk away from what doesn't honor you and the freedom to embrace what does. It is the freedom to live boldly, to speak truthfully, to love fearlessly, because your identity is not tied to anyone else's approval. The true victory is not in who returns, who stays, or who leaves, but in the strength you find when you realize that no matter what, you will always have yourself.